So, EA have just released their driver ratings for every single F1 2021 driver, plus the 7 classic iconic drivers, whatever you want to call them if you pre-order the deluxe edition. So today I'm going to do some analysis. We're going to look into the numbers, see if we agree or disagree, and then do some analysis on those numbers to try and figure out if they've got the overall ratings right, and trying to figure out the best bang for your buck driver, the driver with the best cost versus skill, I guess, rating. Let's get into it then. So here's a list of every single driver that they've listed. So you've got, as I said, every single F1 2021 driver by the team, plus also the iconic drivers that you get if you do order the deluxe edition. On this screen, we've just got the cost, which is the price that they give. It is their salary plus their buyout fee, which is 50% of their salary, and it's the same for all of them. So that is what it's going to cost you for each and every driver. So, first rating is experience. I've included at the top there the description that they give for how they get the experience number. And for this one, it's experience is based on the number of races a driver has completed in, that doesn't quite make sense, during their career. I will say that they do mean completed, not started, which is why if you glance towards the bottom there, you can see the rookies. All three of those drivers start at the same F1 race, but they've got slightly different ratings because Mazepin didn't complete as many races as Schumacher, for example. Now, let's start from the top then. Do we agree with these? I mean, they should be theoretically factual, but let's see if we do agree anyway. Raikkonen 99 makes sense. Alonso, Button, Schumacher, they're all right up there. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I will say that 99 is a number. It's not the number of races they've completed, so it's still kind of a ranking or a rating. I mean, also Mazepin has only completed 6 races, I think. Also, they base these numbers on up to and including the French Grand Prix. So, I mean, 45. Where they got that number from, they've just made that up. So the kind of minimum maximum ranges are obviously they've sort of made up, but then within that they've based it on the actual number of races they've completed. Massa, Hamilton, he's obviously up there. Vettel, Coulthard, Rosberg, Prost, Perez, Ricciardo, Senna, obviously unfortunately taken from us in his prime. That all kind of makes sense. That's all very much database. So there's not really too much to take from that really, because that is all just literally how many races they've completed. I will say they're all based on data, but we may still disagree with some of them. On to Racecraft then, which is the next point. And they've said Racecraft is based on positions gained or lost in a race compared to the average for a given grid slot. They say given grid slot, presumably that means difference between where they started the race versus where they finished the race. Again, top and bottom numbers they've kind of made up, but they've ranked them within that. Senna being the top, I guess that makes sense. Norris, he's obviously done very well ever since he joined F1. He has tended to gain positions. Verstappen, he's not surprising to see him up there. Button wasn't the best qualifier. I guess that makes sense as well. Ricciardo, Hamilton, kind of surprised to see him up there considering he's such a good qualifier. Maybe they've perhaps bumped his number up very slightly. What do you think? Ocon, yeah, I guess. Stroll, Vettel, Prost, Schumacher. All these kind of make sense so far. Gasly, Perez. I feel like Perez will have gained, say, compared to someone like Hamilton, you'd think Perez would have made up more places. But I guess if Hamilton's always starting in P1 or P2, he can't gain much. So I guess this is where it comes into it. This is where the debate comes into it, because they can't base it completely on numbers because it would just be completely unfair. Obviously, someone like George Russell is well, actually, he's missed a Saturday. Maybe Latifi, who's not very good at qualifying and also qualifies near the back, is a lot more likely to be further up the grid. So that's the kind of where the debate comes into it. Raikkonen, Coulthard, Alonso, that seems very harsh. I feel like Alonso has raced very, very well. He's only got on 89. Okay, Alonso's good at qualifying, but he's even better in the race. Surely that seems quite harsh at the 89 for Racecraft for Alonso. Bottas, yeah, Rosberg, okay. Tsunoda, Leclerc and Sainz, they seem very harsh as well. Yeah, not known for being amazing qualifiers, but both known for being solid racers. You think they'd be up a little bit higher in terms of Racecraft. Massa, potentially harsh. I guess the rest kind of makes sense. George Russell is going to be down there, but surely his pace stat will be up there. Next, though, is going to be the awareness stat. The way they describe that is awareness is a measure of the driver's ability to avoid incidents and penalties in a race. So this is presumably number of penalties plus number of crashes, maybe. I don't really know. So we've got Gasly up there. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I would say Gasly has minimal amount of incidents. Norris. Now, he's actually currently the driver with the most penalty points in F1. He's got 10. If he gets to 12, he gets a penalty, by the way. So, quite surprised to see him up there on 99 maximum. Remember, this is up to and including the French Grand Prix. I feel like Norris has been inflated a little bit there. Bottas, yeah, okay, he rarely gets a penalty or he's rarely involved in any incidents. George Russell, he crashed out under the safety car, didn't he, in Imola? But, okay, Ocon. Senna, I feel like Senna was involved in a few incidents in his career. He's up on there on 96. I mean, there's certainly a few high-profile crashes, isn't there, from him. Verstappen, again, seems quite high. Verstappen's pretty good these days, but in his early career he's having quite a few crashes. Button, yeah, okay. Alonso, arguably should be even higher. Sainz, Prost, Schumacher, Rosberg. All these kind of makes Hamilton down there on 89. That seems very, very harsh. In his early career, he was having a few, but in his dominant championship years, he's been unbelievably consistent. That seems pretty damn harsh. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of these ratings, by the way. Vettel, Leclerc, Coulthard, yeah. Perez seems quite low. Perez seems very low. He's scored a few podiums in a midfield team in his career, which means he's quite consistent and good at racecraft. So that seems quite harsh on Perez. The rest, yeah, I haven't got much data on these. That's fair enough. Next up then is going to be pace. So they say pace is a measure of a driver's best lap times. The closer they are to the fastest lap in a race, the higher the score. Now, I have noticed with this number, they don't seem to really adjust it much compared to the car. So they're saying the data is literally their best race lap versus the fastest race lap. So someone in a Williams, let's take George Russell, who's all the way down here. He's obviously never going to be able to get anywhere near a Mercedes race lap. But we've seen him in a Mercedes, and we know he's damn quick. He almost outqualified Bottas. He should be up there, Bottas, who's up here on 92. For some reason, George Russell's down on 83. This seems very, very harsh. Surely they should weight it to the team. There's got to be some statistical number they can come up with, perhaps versus your teammate. I don't know. But that seems very, very harsh on particularly George Russell. Hamilton being up there is not a surprise. Same with Verstappen. Schumacher, Prost, Senna, yes, all know have been very, very fast. Leclerc, yeah. Bottas being, 6 behind Hamilton? I guess that's kind of fair. Gasly, yeah. Norris, potentially harsh, but, this season he's been very good. Last season he was a bit closer to kind of being average. Vettel, I guess recently he's not been very good, but he was known as Mr. Qualifying. He was always amazing. Got so many poles during his dominant years. That seems quite harsh on Vettel there. Rosberg, and maybe fairly harsh. Ricardo, Perez, that's kind of fair, I think. Raikkonen, yeah, that's fair. Tsunoda, Alonso, that seems quite harsh on a double world champion, don't you think? Coulthard, fair enough. Sainz, Button, Massa, this all makes sense from here. Again, Russell is the outlier there. He's known as Mr. Saturday because he's got good pace. So for the fact that he's only on that because he's been in the Williams almost all his career, pretty damn harsh that is. So maybe they should adjust that figure. Anyway, that is the 4 figures that they provide, and from that they give us an overall figure. So I've ranked these here. So if we sort them as they already are by the rank, so you can see they've given Hamilton and Verstappen the same rank. Now I will say this overall, they say takes into account all of the above, the 4 previous points they gave, calculated with a weighted average. Now that is where they keep it quite vague. They don't say how they've weighted it, and you'll see in just a moment because I do a normal average of these 4 numbers. But I mean, there's not really too much to look at here. I guess this ranking is probably really where you would expect everybody to be. I mean, Hamilton, Verstappen, Schumacher, Senna, Prost, Bottas. It's quite high from Bottas, to be totally honest with you. I would say Rosberg is overall better than Bottas, just based on the Hamilton versus Bottas or Rosberg years. That seems quite harsh. Norris, yeah. Gasly, Button, yeah. I mean, this all kind of makes sense for the most part, I would say. I mean, where's George Russell? Harsh on George Russell, though. I guess he's got low experience, but yeah, still seems pretty harsh. Anyway, that's the rankings that they've given. Let's now get into some analysis based on what I have done. So I've done an alternative overall rating, whereby I've literally just taken a straight average of these 4 numbers, and that is the number there. And then I've obviously then ranked them from 1 to 27, and we've got the order. So that puts Schumacher top. Really interestingly. So whatever they've done with the weighting of their overall figure, they've put Hamilton top and Schumacher low down. Button also right up there because he's got 98, 94, 95. Yeah, okay, only an 85 there. But that's put him right up there because the other figures are so consistently high. What else have we got here? We've got Hamilton down on 93, level with Button. Alonso 92. Prost 91. Senna 91. They're even. That's really interesting to see them being dead even. Raikkonen quite high. That must be his experience dragging him up quite a lot. Vettel, yeah. Verstappen, very harsh. Very harsh on Verstappen, considering we're seeing this season he's right up there with Hamilton. That's purely got to be experience. He's only on 69 experience, whereas Hamilton is on 92. Although 96, 96, 97 is actually higher than Hamilton, apart from on pace. So that seems quite harsh, but obviously that's where the weighting comes in. That's why they've weighted it a little bit. Coulthard, Massa, Rosberg, Ricciardo, Bottas is pretty low. Again, perhaps that's just experience. I feel like their weighting is mainly away from experience, because obviously we know in F1, experience is not everything. Let's go back to the bottom. Mazepin being the lowest, that makes sense, I suppose. Russell, again, is it just his experience dragging him down? He's actually got 99 awareness, by the way. Anyway, that's those numbers. Interestingly here, though, I've done a difference. This is the difference between the ranking there and the ranking there. So you see here, Schumacher, he's gained 2 positions because he's gone from 3 to 1. You get the idea. So let's look at the bigger differences here. So Button, he's gained 6 positions in the rankings. Hamilton's gone down 1. Alonso's gained 7 in the rankings. Raikkonen has gained 8 in the rankings. Verstappen, he's lost 7. That's harsh again. That's because of his experience there. Massa, he's gained 9 in the rankings, losing big. Gasly lost big. Norris has lost big. Now, I will say, I don't believe when you're using My Team or one of the career modes, I don't believe the game takes into account the overall rating, apart from perhaps to value a driver. I believe they just use these 4 figures here: experience, racecraft, awareness, and pace. So these are the only numbers you care about. Theoretically, then, that means you should take this alternative overall ranking over their overall ranking, because again, I don't think they use this in Korea. So does that mean that Button, being only $6 million, is actually right up there in terms of value? Well, let's get into some cost analysis then. So first of all, we're going to ignore that alternative ranking that we've just created. We're going to do purely the game's numbers that they've given. So we've got the cost here, the rank of the cost, we've got the overall rating that they've given, and the rank of that. So this is a cost per rating, so that is how much it costs per point of rating. We've then got a rank based on that, so if we sort by these, you can see there, understandably, we've pretty much now ordered by this anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there you go. We're pretty much ordered by the same as here. That surprised me a little bit, but it's because this number here, the overall ranking, doesn't go down to 0, so they're always going to be more or less in the same order. But the interesting point of this analysis is the difference. So we can see here, who is that? That is Vettel is actually overpriced because he's ranked 11th in the overall ratings, but actually 5th most expensive. So he is actually overpriced. So he's lost 6 positions. Gaining 6 positions, though, is Max Verstappen. He's underpriced. He is ranked number 1 in terms of the overall rating, but he's only number 7 in terms of the cost per rating. So he is actually pretty undervalued. Let's just look at the undervalued people. Norris, 10 places he's gained. He's really undervalued. Gasly, pretty undervalued. Alonso, pretty undervalued. Now we get into what I just call witchcraft, because I don't actually understand how this works, but I have done some analysis here. So this is the cost presented as a percentage. So Hamilton here has got 100% because he is the 100% rating. At the bottom, 0% because Mazepin is 0%. So somewhere in the middle here, 19%. But you can see the key thing here, the reason I've done this is because instead of doing the difference between 1 and 2, obviously you can see there's a massive difference between the numbers there. So we've done a difference 100 down to 65%. So this number is only 65% of this number. I've done the same thing with the with the overall ratings here. So you can see 100 to 96. That's because that's 95 to 94. And then this is the witchcraft part. I don't really understand how this works. I've just minus this off this, but it is weighted. It gives us a good idea. So if we now sort by this should theoretically give us the driver with the best bang for buck, the best value for money driver, which actually comes out with that witchcraft analysis of Lando Norris. We did say previously that he gained the most in the cost per rating. So Lando Norris is actually going to be a best bang for buck driver. Gasly, Alonso, Verstappen. We've identified every single one of these previously. They've all got great bang for your buck. Leclerc as well, Coulthard, Button. That all makes sense. I think these are pretty much all drivers that we brought up previously for being either underrated or overrated in certain columns. And now using this analysis, we've come out with that order. So in your career modes, I would probably aim for Norris. He seems only 4.5 mil, yet you get a driver that's rated 91 overall. So yes, that is that overall list. Take that as your Hamilton and Verstappen, to be fair, a little bit outliers because they're 100 and 0. They actually get an overall of 0, which puts them miles behind everyone else. So they're a bit outliers. Hamilton, though, is definitely overvalued. 19.5 mil is a lot of money. Let's now look at the alternative cost analysis. The exact same thing, but I've done it based on my alternative rating numbers, not on the game's rating numbers, which is the numbers that you see here. Now, interestingly, this has slightly different results. This actually puts Alonso top. Again, if we think which I do think is the case, that the overall, if we go back to this sheet, the overall ranking here is not actually used by the game. It is only these individual numbers that's used by the game. Then actually our alternative overall rating is probably more useful. So if we take this as absolute fact, and this is the one that you want to base your career mode on, turns out Fernando Alonso is actually going to be your most bang for buck, the best value for money in terms of drivers, because he is only 4.5 mil. He's very cheap, but he's got an alternative ranking of 92. Button similar, 93, but he costs 6 mil. Coulthard, he's pretty cheap, 4 mil, 88. Where's Norris? Here he is. He was top of the other list. He costs 4.5 mil, but his overall rating is only 86, the alternative overall rating. So you can see why he's now been demoted quite a bit, because he's 6 points behind. The rest, I won't bother reading out the rest, but you get the idea. So that, for me, this screen here is an order of the people you should go after first in career mode, according to my Witchcraft numbers that I've just sort of done some analysis and then just figured out some maths I don't understand on the right hand side there. And that is going to be your ranking. So according to this, I would go for Fernando Alonso in career mode, 4.5 mil. You're not going to be able to get him in your first season, but perhaps from your second season, he is going to give you fantastic bang for buck, which is going to allow you to reserve funds for some other activities. Anyway, guys, that is my analysis of the F1 2021 driver ratings. Let me know what you thought of them down in the comments, and do subscribe for some more in-depth analysis just like this. We're going to be making lots more videos on F1 2021. So do subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.